Hey, my name is Zach Perry. Welcome back to the show, or I don't know what to call this show, video at least. I do these things regularly. I've written a book. If you're seeing this, it's probably up. You're probably familiar with it, but I want to bring this book to life a little bit. If my writing's a little dry and I don't bring it to life enough, then me actually recording the videos maybe bring it to life a little bit more. So today I'm going to talk about something that I talked about in chapter 22, I think, of the book, near the end of the book. It's something we call it Open Platform Monetization, or OPM, which also stands for other people's money. But it's a way that you can use other people's money to grow your own money, doing something the bank does every day. In fact, that's exactly how banks make money. Of all the programs we have, this is one of them. Perhaps I'm the most excited about this one because when I explain this to people, it blows their minds. In fact, one of their first reactions, almost always, is this just sounds too good to be true. Now, the reason it sounds too good to be true is because we are locked into conventional thinking. We're shackled, right? We think about things a certain way, and it's like a prisoner, right? They've been shackled for so long, they're sitting in this dank, dark cell, and when they're finally given their freedom, it feels too good to be true because they're used to so much less. So let me walk through this for you. I want to start with an explanation of how banks make money to kind of show you that it not only is it not too good to be true, but it happens every day and you're participating in it, only you're on the wrong end when you're using a bank. Not that you shouldn't be using banks, but let me show you how you can really capitalize on this leveraging concept by explaining something called fractional reserve banking. Okay, so you have to be a little bit familiar with the Federal Reserve and their rules. So I'll go over some of those, but fractional reserve banking is how banks make money because there are rules that say what they can and can't do with your money. Now, the lifeblood of a bank is new cash. So we're going to say and assume that you deposit $100 into a savings account. The bank has rules, and the Federal Reserve says they have to keep at least 10% of that, or $10, on reserve. So in their vault, they've got $10. When you put $100 in, they stick $10 in the vault. The other $90 they can now use as a loan. Now, banks make money issuing loans, and this is how it works. Let's say someone comes into the same bank, your bank, and they say, hey, I need $100,000. I would like to purchase a house. So they need a $100,000 mortgage. The bank is going to assess the risk, right? And they're going to look at the credit history and their credit worthiness and their income and their disposable income and, all these other sort of things where they try and assess whether the person asking for $100,000 is likely to repay the loan or not. And then since they can't see the future and some people are going to default when they can't predict it, they're going to make sure they secure their loan through collateral, and so they're going to get a lien on the house. So on a mortgage, before they'll sign over the money, the homeowner has to sign saying, you have rights in my house that are superior to mine, so if I default, the bank now is allowed to go after my house, and they can foreclose on it, they can get the equity, and they can, they get paid first, right? And so the bank, they assess risk, they assign an interest rate based on risk, and then they mitigate that risk through things like this lien on the house. And so if the bank's going to give $100,000, maybe 90 of that is bundled in with money, the 90% of other people's deposits. So $100,000 then gets loaned out, and it goes straight to the seller of the house. And now the seller has money in his or her bank account, 90 of which is yours. Now that bank has to operate under the same rules as your bank, and so they have to take 10% of that total money and 90 of it's yours. So $9 of your money now gets put on reserve on that bank, and the other $81 or 90% they can now issue in loans. So perhaps someone comes in and they want an auto loan. They need $25,000 to purchase a car, and the bank is thinking about bundling your $81 with the $25,000. Now, granted, the bank isn't exactly, they don't know that's your $81. It doesn't matter. But they're going to assess risk. Risk with a vehicle is different than it is with a house, because with a house, they always know where it's going to be. With a vehicle, the house typically appreciates in value. A vehicle, they have to find it. It depreciates in value, so it's a little bit different scenario. They're still going to want the collateral assignment. They're still going to want to check credit worthiness, and they're going to sign an interest rate. But if they issue this $25,000 loan, it's going to get paid to the seller of the vehicle, and your $81 now goes into a bank account. It could be the same bank, different bank, it doesn't matter. And that bank now has to keep 10% on reserve. That's $8.10. and they have to, then they can, if they want, loan out up to $72.90. Well, this same iteration, we've gone through 3 steps here, and we've whittled it down by 90% 3 times. Banks can do this 10 times under the rules of the Federal Reserve, and that's what's called fractional reserve banking, because they really only ever have a fraction of the total money on deposit in the bank in reserve or in their vault. So fractional reserve banking. Now, this is okay and it works as long as not everyone wants their money at the same time. I'll show you a chart in a second that kind of illustrates that. But first, I want to share with you some of the information I found in my own research. So the national average interest rate on a personal loan is 9.41%. Okay? And if you bank at one of the 4 biggest banks, you'll earn 0.1% interest on your savings account. Yay! So if you have $100 and you deposit it, after a year, you will have earned a dime. Don't spend it all in one place. So let's look at that over 10 iterations, okay? If you stick $100 in the bank account, you've now got $100 on deposit. The bank has $10 on reserve. They got $90 that they loan out. And on that $90 alone at 9.41%, they're earning $8.47 in a year, and that costs them 10 cents. Well, let's follow that through 10 iterations. So if a bank maxes out what they can loan, then your $100, after 10 times being moved, now shows a total of $651.32 on 10 different bank ledgers, right? 90% each time of the last. So your $100 has created $651 in the economy, right? All those people buying houses and cars and whatnot, your $100 is being multiplied, okay? And so it's actually good for the economy because there's more money in the economy than actually exists, okay? So that $651, only $100 of it actually exists, but there's $551 that's actually purchasing money that really doesn't exist, which is kind of scary when you think about it. And when in 2008 to 2009, when you heard that banks were over leveraged, they were doing this more than 10 times, right? And so there's a reason there's limits on this. So there's a total of $65.13 on reserve of the bank. There's 651 that's out there that, even though there's only $100 that exists. So the bank has loaned 90% of that out. That's $586.19. And if they grow at 9.41%, that's $55.16 of growth in 1 year. And how much did it cost the bank if they're paying 0.1% interest on that $651 over the year? It cost them 65 cents. So here's where this just gets sick, right? The bank has made $55.16 in 1 year on other people's money. What kind of a rate of return is that? Well, how much to figure out a rate of return? You have to take the growth divided by your principal, right? Well, what's the principal here? It's not $100. That's your money. The principal is 0. The bank has been able to earn $55.16 on $0 of their own money. That's an infinite rate of return. It's a 55% rate of return on your money, but you don't get to keep that, right? So that's $55.16 the bank earns on $0, and it only costs them 65 cents. That's pretty cool. So what if we could do that? What if we made you the bank? Now, the rules are a little bit different for us, right? And there are a lot of insurance concepts out there that use the term bank, infinite banking, bank on yourself, family bank, become your own bank. They like this bank concept, and they capitalize on this because when you use an insurance contract, you can use your money more than once. And the way it's typically set up, and the way we even set it up sometimes, often, is you've got your money in the insurance contract that's earning for you and working for you, but you've also got the opportunity to collateralize that money to use outside the contract. So you're using the same dollar twice. And so we're like, hey, banks use the same dollar more than once. We've now used it twice, so we're like a bank. Well, I mean, that's true, kind of. But if a bank can use the same dollar 10 times, you're not exactly like a bank because you can only use it twice. But let me show you how you can actually use the same dollar more than 10 times without over leveraging yourself. Because remember, if there's 600 some dollars in the economy, $651, but there's only actually $65 on account at the bank, if everyone wanted their money, if those 10 people whose total $651, if they all went to the bank and they said, bank, I want my money, the bank can only give what they have, right? So if you've seen that scene in It's a Wonderful Life where there's a bank run because people lose confidence in the bank, and so George Bailey's trying to convince people, no, you don't understand. The money's not here. It's in Joe's house. It's in, are you going to foreclose on Joe's house? No, he's doing his best to repay it. So basically, banks are fine and everything's going to work as long as we trust them and we don't all run and get our money, because there's not going to be enough money if we all do that. It's because they've leveraged their money. But the way we can set this up, you will always be ahead. There will never be a danger of this. This is what we call the open platform monetization, or the leveraging plan. And I want to draw you a parallel. So we're going to assume you have a 401k and you've got $200,000 in it, right? Now, using our Fortune Freedom Qualified Rollover Program, let's say you take $100,000 of that and you stick it in an insurance contract. Now, we're going to write up this insurance contract so that you're sticking in $100,000 of premium every year, okay? Even though we know you only have $100,000 that you're going to use for this. So in the 401k, we're going to take half of it out, stick it in the insurance contract. We're going to set up the contract so an equal amount of premium goes in every year. And then in the 401k side, we're going to leave the rest of it in there, so you still have 100 in there. You're going to keep contributing to your 401k, and you're never going to contribute to your IGIC again. And then we're going to map out. Let's see what happens in both scenarios, okay? So on the left side, let's leave that for a second, and then let's see what happens in the insurance contract, okay? So you've paid your first premium using the money from the insurance contract. You are now going to, 11 months into this, you realize I've got another premium due of $100,000, but I'm not going to use the $100,000 from the 401k that's left in there, so what do? Well, you're not actually going to ask yourself this because you'll know ahead of time. But what's going to happen is we are going to go to the bank for you, and we're going to go, hey, bank, we've got a client here. She's got a $100,000 cash value life insurance contract, and we would like to use that cash value as collateral for a $100,000 loan. Now, remember, banks make money issuing loans. They like making loans. They wouldn't survive if they couldn't loan money. And when they determine the interest rate, what they're doing is they're assessing risk. Remember, there's some risk associated with loaning on a house, loaning on a car. Like if they loan on a house, it's not guaranteed to go up in value either because of the market or owner neglect. If they do want to foreclose, they have to hire an attorney and go through an expensive statutory foreclosure process. It gets even more complicated and expensive if the homeowner files for bankruptcy, which is fairly likely if the homeowner can't make their payments. In any case, there's risk there, so they're going to assign an interest rate based on that risk. But when you go to a bank with a cash equivalent as collateral, and you say, I've got $100,000 cash here, and I'd like to use that as collateral, that is the safest type of loan for the bank. Their risk is very, very low. In fact, if you go to the FDIC's website, and there's instructions on where to find this in my book. We can throw it up on the website. If you go to the FDIC's website, you can look at any given bank and you can see where their assets and where their liabilities are. And so if you want to look and see how much money each bank, JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, you look up any bank, your credit union, if it's federally insured, they're going to be on the website and they have to list their assets. You see how much your bank owns in life insurance and compare it to how much they own in real estate. And you'll be surprised, unless you've read my book, 29 to 65 times, I think, more money in life insurance than they have in real estate. Like, we're talking billions of dollars that banks invest in life insurance because it's so safe. So that's what's going to happen here. We get the loan using your money as collateral. We're going to get a very competitive interest rate. Now, these interest rates, we're actually working with a partner on this, and they're working on getting the interest rates down to 1.8%. Simple interest annually. We're not quite there yet, but I'm going to show you this calculation using that because I'm confident we'll be there soon. So what happens is now you take out a loan for $100,000. So you've got $100,000 cash, you've got a $100,000 loan. Well, you're going to take that $100,000 loan and you are going to pay the second year's premium with that $100,000. So now you're in a pretty good situation, right? You've got $200,000 in your insurance contract that you've paid towards your insurance contract. $100,000 of it is collateralized for the bank, and $100,000 of it is yours. Okay, so at any point in this process, you're always going to be at least $100,000 ahead. So at the end of year 2, it's the same thing. You've got another premium payment coming up. So you go to the bank. You say, hey, bank, I've got $200,000 cash value, $100,000 is pledged to you already. The other $100,000 I'd like to use as collateral for a new loan. So the bank is going to give you a loan at a very good interest rate, and you're going to use that money, and you're going to pay the third year's premium, and you're going to do that in year 4. Okay, you're approaching the beginning of year 4. You're going to go get a loan. You're going to do the same thing. You're going to do year 5. You're going to do year 6, and every year you're going to use that $100,000 of the difference between the total that you've put in and the total that you financed, and you're going to use that as collateral for a loan, and you're going to pay the next year's premium. Okay, now remember, it's not just the money you put in that's in there, it's growth too. This money is consistently and constantly growing inside this account, which means that you're not just the $100,000 ahead, but that amount grows, okay? And so if at any point in this process, the bank wanted to call in their note, or you wanted to walk away, you could. You just pay off the bank and then you keep the rest, because you're always going to be ahead. This isn't some fictional money that we're creating. We're not over leveraging the same dollar. We are always that one premium payment ahead. But let's look at how this works mathematically. In year 20, you've now contributed $2 million, okay? And if it's earning 5%, which is about what it'll be earning between guaranteed interest and dividends, that's $100,000 of growth in year 20 alone. $100,000 of growth in year 20 alone. Now, what kind of a rate of return is that? Well, you put in $100,000. Now you're earning $100,000 in 1 year. That's a 100% rate of return in 1 year. But remember, you've got a 1.8% interest loan accruing against you on 1.9 million of that. That's $34,200. And so when you do the math, that's actually only $65,800 net growth, which is only a 65.8% interest rate for a single year. But it's actually a little better than that, because you don't have $2 million in it in year 20. You've contributed $2 million by year 20. You probably have about $3.3 million in year 20 with all the growth. And even if it's only $3 million, that's $150,000 growth at 5%, less the $34,200, and you're about $115,000 growth in 1 year after interest, which is 115% rate of return in 1 year alone. Now, granted, in years previous, that growth is going to be a little smaller because you have a little bit less working for you. But if it's 115 in year 20 and it's 112 in year 19, it's still pretty dang good. So where else can you get interest rates like that? And how safe is this? Well, it's as safe as any insurance contract, which is to say safe enough that banks stick a lot of their money in, because it's about the safest place you can put your money. Not only that, but you're going to have about $8 million in death benefit associated with this account. And when it's annuitized, that's about a $325,000 that you can take. In this scenario, this was a 38-year-old person starting it, that they could start taking out $325,000 a year, which amount increased year over year, tax-free in an annualized salary. Now let's go back to our first situation, because remember, we were contributing to the 401k. We're going to max our contribution at $19,500 every year for the same 20 years. So if you take the 20 years of $19,500 plus $100,000 we started with, that's $490,000 you've contributed. Now all it takes is a little bit of simple math. If we assume that you don't pay any investment advisor fees, you will be, and we assume 5.42% year-over-year annual growth, which is the 122-year average of the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and we assume you just get flat growth, you won't. So we give you some benefits of the Dow on the 401k side. That will have grown to $961,000. So on the 401k side, you've contributed $490,000 over 20 years, and you've got $961,000 to show for it, assuming a lot of things that aren't going to happen. And on the IGIC side, we've got $100,000 that you've taken from your 401k. You've never contributed another dollar again, and that grows to about $3.3 million in cash value. And that's making some assumptions that are very much more probable than not going to happen, because we're not relying on the stock market. We're based it on hundreds of years worth of dividends. And so it is a much safer assumption what's going to happen on the right side with the IGIC than what's going to happen on the left. Well, what does that look like come tax time? So let's say you're in year one to pay taxes. you've got 3.3 million cash value in the insurance contract, 961,000 in the 401k. That 401k money is 100% taxable, and in the IGIC, we only have to pay taxes on the $100,000 that you'd already taken your deduction on when you contributed to the 401k in the form of RMDs. So at age 72, this is what it's going to look like. You have to take out at least $36,000 a year from your 401k. You have to take out at least $3,800. It's actually $3,900 from your IGIC, and then you have to report that as taxable. So the rest of that, your income, that $325,000 you're taking from the IGIC, and it's non-taxable. So you can get about a $360,000 income and pay taxes on $40,000 of it. And just doing some quick math in my head, $40,000, $40,300 less the $12,200 standard deduction, that is $28,000. And then you take that in the tax brackets today, on $28,000, you're going to pay roughly, let's see, you're going to pay $1,000 on the first $10,000, you're going to pay probably $2,500, so $3,500 in taxes. So you got a $360,000 per year income. You're paying $3,500 in taxes, which is just less than a 1% tax rate. How cool is that? 1% tax rate during retirement, when taxes are going to be the most important. Your income is the most important, so how much you pay in taxes is really going to matter. Because remember, that retirement income is your future paycheck. And unlike now when you have a job, you can't negotiate for a better salary during retirement. You can't go find a better job. What you have is what you're stuck with. So you got to plan now. So if you want to see how this works for you, we have some very sophisticated software that will run a scenario for you specifically. We can take what money you have now. We can show you what will happen if we use bank leveraging to grow that. And we can show you based on your current age, how much you contribute, what your desired retirement age is. We can show you an annuitized, tax-free, or very close to it, depending on the source of the money, retirement plan. And it will surprise you. We'll do this for free. So we'll run the numbers for you for free. We will enter you into this program for free. Okay? You do not pay us. You've already paid for my book, so I figure, you know what? Let's do this for free. No, actually, we'll do this for any of our clients who have the book. We'll do it for free, okay? So you can reach out to me at my website, ZachariahPerry.com. There's contact information there. You, like I always say, and I take this promise seriously. If you call my office, first off, I'm likely not going to be the one to answer the phone, but if you call my office, whoever answers the phone better put a smile on your face. If they don't, you let me know, because we take smiling pretty seriously around here.